Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, and somewhere over there is John, your resident ghostly millennial. John, how are you doing this evening? God, you spooked me there for a second.
I'm feeling
Woo!
extra translucent tonight, for sure.
Translucent.
Yeah, look how white I am. It's ridiculous.
You don't need low lighting to show that off. I'm just saying.
Well, it helps, obviously.
Yeah.
Look at me, white as fuck.
You're just
Couldn't even wear the sunglasses. Couldn't even do it.
You're just positively glowing with privilege.
That's right. A straight white male privilege I clearly have.
So, John, you're in the big SC.
Damn right.
Hanging
Yeah,
out.
we've had a fun time already.
Have you
Yeah.
ready to come home now?
Not yet. I still got 2 more days. Be here till Monday. So
Uh,
Edgar's J. Edgar's already calling out the obvious. No shades, dude. It's so dark in here that if I wore shades, it would reflect the light back at you guys. It would not. It's not gonna work in this low light setting. I
um,
do have the sunglasses. I think they're right. They're over here. No,
hey,
oh,
looks
they're in
like
the
we've got
bedroom.
somebody showing up. Hold on to your horses, folks. Hold on.
Oh, snap!
Hold on, everyone.
Oh,
Look,
it's Elaine. What's
it's
up?
Elaine. Hi, Elaine.
Hi.
Look, she made it.
Hi.
Sorry, I was
Good.
like really running up on time there.
Were you? Why? That's it's the drinking. That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
How are you doing
Speaking of,
tonight?
I'm great. How are you guys?
No, we're fine. I think I'm fine.
pretty awesome.
I think John's a little scared. He's in a scary, spooky
A little
hotel.
spooked. Not gonna lie. Yeah. Not gonna lie.
Which
It's like
hotel are
really.
you at?
I'm actually the Embassy Suites in historic Charleston.
Okay.
So it's supposed to be the most haunted hotel in the South.
Okay. I have not been
Now,
there.
unfortunately, I did not get the most haunted room that is in the most haunted hotel in the South. So I'm not quite, at the level I would like to be, but it's still, still pretty good.
Right now, the only ghosts in that
Yeah, I
room
don't
are the
think you
shades
get.
of John's past.
That's right. And look how translucent I am. It's fucking ridiculous. I have no light on me right now, so I'm just like, oh, it's
Ghostly.
ridiculous.
All right. Well,
Ghostly.
you should put some sunscreen on. It'll help.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who don't know,
And I'm
this
good.
is Elaine. She is the Red in the Red and Ed show, which I believe I see Ed over there hanging out in the chat. Um,
Yep, hanging out on YouTube.
do what?
Oh, I'm sad I can't see
Said
the
he's hanging
chat.
out on
Normally I get to see all the chat stuff because I'm logged in, but I don't get to see it this time.
YouTube.
Oh, yeah, because well, you're not logged into anything specific, are you?
Mm-mm.
Um,
Well, I mean, yeah, you can just pull up YouTube. You'll be able to see it.
Oh
All the
yeah,
chats will be on YouTube.
um,
Yeah,
I'll
I
do that.
pull it up on your browser.
I was just going to say I could send her the link to the chat window.
Yeah, send me the link to the chat window and I'll watch it.
I think I can do that. Let's see if I can. Let's see if I can manage to do that. I'll
Yes,
send it in the
on
Zoom
air.
chat.
Yeah, we'll do some on
On
air
air
IT.
production. It's
Yeah.
fine.
All right, see if that link works for you. See if it takes you to our chat window, and that way you'll have some chat pooling and
It wants me to open up another meeting.
no, what a meeting.
You
Wait,
Yeah.
sent
oh,
you
you
sent
know
him a
what?
link to the meeting,
I thought I copied it.
jackass.
Well, just hold on a
You copied
minute.
over the Zoom link.
You know what? It's because
I
I
am
didn't
not
get
the
a
one
good.
who's
I didn't.
drinking.
I didn't get a good. Here, let's try
As far
this.
as I know,
Now,
I'm the only one who has.
now I got a good Control C on there. There we go.
There we go.
Trying to
That
use
looks more like it.
trying to use shortcuts blind.
I'm gonna have to mute it super quick if it comes up with the video because it's gonna try to play.
I don't
I
know.
don't
Will it
think it.
pull
Oh
it?
no, it won't. Okay.
Did it just pull
No,
up the
it should
chat
just be
window
the
for
chat.
you?
Yeah, it did, but I have to sign in to chat. So
Oh, yeah.
it's okay.
Sign in.
So I can read it, but I can't respond.
Ah,
I mean, you can sign in as you, right?
you do know who you are, don't you?
You don't have to. I mean, Ed's saying the
Let's see.
professionalism.
You know what, Ed?
Yes,
You know
and we
what?
are equally as professional as you are, easily.
Yeah, we
easily.
have to do on-air production too. I don't know what you're talking about. And that is all
I
on you
know.
because I don't do any of that.
Right, Ed, you're lucky you're not watching us through a can with a string attached to it. I'm just saying,
I'm pretty close to that at this point with hotel Wi-Fi.
John, you're pretty close to that in general.
That's
I
true.
mean,
That's true.
you're so boomer when it comes to technology. It's not even funny.
It's really true. It is absolutely true. Yeah,
I
I'm
kind of
pretty
am
bad.
too. Like Ed does all that for our show. So
Yeah, that's Robert's job.
Pardon my
Robert's job.
my toxic boomer linality.
Right. Then I get to then I get to make fun of you when stuff doesn't work, and it's not my fault.
You
I
know
can do it.
what? You know what? At least I'm trying. At least I'm trying. Okay.
I'll give you that.
It's
Give you
not
that.
like it's not like it's a good old fashioned AOL chat room, right?
Oh my God. Those were
I
those were
remember
days.
those.
I don't know if they were the good days, but they were days for sure.
They were definitely
Yeah.
days.
And
They were days.
I know there's people that still have their doorways that they made out of the AOL and CompuServe discs. You know,
That is
There are people who
wild.
still have AOL email addresses.
I I still have a bellsouth.net email address, and they don't
You
exist
do.
anymore.
That was ridiculous when I found out about that. I made so much fun of you. You
Now,
have that one, and don't you have like a
Earthlink
Earthlink? That was the one. Yeah, an Earthlink email.
and a Roadrunner. I still have a
And a
Roadrunner
Roadrunner. Oh my
too.
God.
But here's the
So
question.
funny.
Okay.
Here's what I don't understand. If Bell South is no longer, right? They don't exist anymore. Who keeps maintaining my email address? Like, why is it still there? Why should I?
It's probably been absorbed.
Right?
Like
What?
you're just
Yeah.
like grandfathered into
Yeah.
AT&T now.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's yeah. I think about it sometimes, and I'm like, oh, holy shit, you know. And the Earthlink is the worst because I don't have any access to that email anymore. So if I happen to come across something old with that email account, then I turn around and I'm like, oh well, I can't reset a password on this one. I can't do shit. But yeah, so you know, technology, it's fun, and it's everybody's friend, and it's only going to become more so as we move forward. You would think
That's a joke, right?
you kids
Yeah.
would be on
I hope
top of
so.
this.
Okay.
You would think you kids would be on top of this, but yeah,
I hope
I mean wearables. Like in the next decade, the level of wearables is going to be phenomenal. Like you won't carry a phone anymore. It'll be on your wrist. It'll be something. It'll be a pair of glasses.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's
It'll be
a,
watch your
it's
glasses. Yeah, some
it,
shit.
they're breaching quantum mechanics now to where they can make them super small. So just get used to it. You know, take the chip. When they offer you the chip, just take the chip.
Take the chip.
Just take the chip.
Someone hasn't watched Terminator enough times.
Right.
Look, if Terminator has taught us anything, it has taught us this. At least we'll get some time travel and a chance to fix it.
I don't
We
know
get to
about
see
that.
Arnold Schwarzenegger naked, so there's another thing that we get to do.
I got
Whether
I
you
got
like
a
that or
really
not, you get
interesting
to-
question about time travel not long ago.
Uh-oh.
Someone asked me if I could travel back in time, would I take the opportunity to ex-nay baby Hitler or Woodrow Wilson?
I think the answer's pretty obvious there. I mean, Woodrow Wilson was the worst president.
Thank you.
America
Yeah, I
ever
was
had.
like Woodrow
Yeah.
Wilson for sure. I think they
Yeah.
were very
I
shocked
mean, that's
by
an
that.
obvious answer.
But see, there's the problem with that approach to time travel is because Murphy's law will kick in.
Yeah.
And it will become that time paradox where time corrects itself. So you could take out
mean,
this
become
person,
utopia,
but
yeah.
someone else will roll into that position and set that course of history back on track.
Maybe. I feel like it would probably be more like what was proposed in Avengers, in the Avengers movie, where they were like, if you take the stone out, it creates this alternate reality and like
Right.
all these things. And I feel like that's actually maybe plausible. But of course, I don't know anything about the science behind any of that. So I see it in a movie and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But I don't know if
Science
it
fiction
actually
is
has
way
any
better
basis
than
in
science.
reality or not.
I actually
Yeah.
just watched a time travel movie today called 2064. and it took a look at the time paradox, and it was actually kind of interesting because you could tell that it was a loop paradox that was going on, but he had managed. It looked like he managed to do it enough to where he came up with the right answer, and then broke the loop and fixed things, right? And so it was really kind of cool. And it's like, but you know, you would think you'd have to run into yourself anytime you're doing shit like that, right? Which he did run into himself. Well, his skeleton, his corpse, from a previous entry into it, but still. It's I don't know. It was pretty low budget too, though. So, low budget time travel never really explains the truth behind time travel.
Doesn't need to.
But they're saying they're close. They're saying that they might actually have something very close to what would be borderline time travel, to where we could travel great distances, in space. They're getting closer to being able to rip a hole in it. And isn't that great? Because nobody knows how to sew them up. Boston. I see Elephant Man in the house. He said, "Did you guys see the Boston Dynamic paintball dog robot thing?" Wow.
Yeah,
is that the title?
I've seen those.
Is that the title?
Yeah, is that what I'm looking up?
Right. Is that the Google search? Because it really seems like you could be fine tuning it a little bit more.
Be a little more
keywords,
right?
People. Keywords.
If you could time
keywords, yeah. I don't think thing needs to be in there. Or
Ed says if you could time travel and eliminate one and only of the great evils of history, Stalin, Obama, or David Hogg.
Wow. I mean, Stalin is a serious answer, but David Hogg would be the meme answer. Obama, he's like the most medium of those three. So
without Obama, does David Hogg exist?
Yeah, I would say so, because surprisingly, Obama wasn't that bad when it came to guns. Like he wasn't pro-gun necessarily, but he didn't pass tons of laws.
Right, he didn't really get into the conversation that much.
Well, I wasn't thinking of it from that perspective. I was thinking of it more like...
Well, that's David Hogg.
Without the culture that surrounded Obama, would David Hogg have even gotten traction? Because I feel like he wouldn't have.
That's it. Okay, we could go into this. That's a good point. However, I don't think that Obama wasn't the catalyst, in my opinion, for that. It was happening regardless of Obama. It just was perpetuated by. So he was just one other actor that had, significant reach and, power.
But without him in that position, would David Hogg have gotten that much of a reaction? I don't think he would have.
Wouldn't the question be if whether or not it would have been a different Democrat, or if it were Republican?
Somebody else,
right? Like if you're talking about it being somebody other than Obama, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't Obama that, or even like any culture from Obama that brought David Hogg into. It was the shooting, and that he, even though he wasn't even there. I think we all agree on that, right? He wasn't even there. Yeah. But, he gained prominence through his, CNN interviews and MSM interviews in general, which I don't think had anything to do with Obama. I mean...
No, it didn't. But I think that if there had been a Republican president instead, that it would not have gotten, all those media interviews and everything wouldn't have really made a difference. I just don't think it would have had the same reaction.
I don't know. Well, maybe they would have. I think it's possible, and obviously we're completely speculation. But if there was a Republican president instead of Obama during the same years, you might be right that the mainstream media would have gone after that president the same as they went after Trump. But I don't know that they would have been as effective, and so they wouldn't have been as unified as the mainstream media.
Well,
I can say they really went after Trump specifically because he was Trump and because of the way that he acts. No other Republican president would have acted the way that Trump acted, for good or for ill.
Speaking
no one else
of
would
Trump,
have acted the same way and wouldn't have given them as much ammo.
Speaking of Trump, should we talk about the large golden calf in the room?
Oh, I've got it ready to show. I've got one pulled up.
Yeah.
But real quick, I will say this. In regard to Obama, I will say that I think the 8 years that Obama was in office was the engine by which the far left really was able to get up to speed. Like, really get their motor racing, really get their voices more voluminous.
Right, because Trump just kept handing them ammo, like, on a daily basis,
Right.
because he had no self-control.
Right.
But 100%.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Obama created that let's be sensitive about everything, because now we've got all these check boxes in the White House. We're meeting criteria now. We've got inclusivity now, our voices, and then when Trump rolls around, yeah, it's just fucking crazy. Which he's coming back though, so it's okay. Trump's coming back.
What?
No.
Yo, he is. He's coming back. He's gonna.
No.
He's
I'm
actually.
not comforted by this information. I don't
He's-
need to
he's
watch
gonna-
my show at all.
He's gonna reemerge at CPAC. In fact, if you want, I can share this with you. We've got some video of him reemerging,
Oh Lord.
coming out of this, out of hiding, and the shell that he's had himself in. I'll share this with you guys, and the folks at home. But this is
She's coming.
this is Trump. This is him getting ready to pull in and really open up for us.
getting it.
We're gonna get to
So-
see.
He's goo.
No, can you?
No, literally, that's what happens to caterpillars. Did you know that?
Oh yeah.
They actually completely turn into a puddle of goo and then remake into a butterfly.
Yes,
It's
actually,
wild.
this was shot in my yard today.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and there were actually two of them, and one of them you actually got to see the goo that was left behind. You can see this one's trying to purge it. But no, so he's going to come back to us. He's emerging now. He is, and he's going to come out Sunday at CPAC, and he's going to let everybody know that he is taking charge of Democratic leadership. He is going to attempt to lead the Democratic Party to a win in 2020. Enough of that. Okay. But anyway, but let me share this with you. I think for you guys, I can put it up real quick. NSB. So yeah, you were talking about, I believe this item.
It says, well, it's orange.
I believe this is the item that you were speaking of that was so interesting, and I'll show it to everyone else as well. There we go.
It's so obnoxious.
Is it? You find that obnoxious? Ooh. Oh, that's a. Why would you do that to me, picture? Good Lord. Well.
Whoa, what are you?
Oh, I'm getting great technical issues with that because of that thing you were showing.
Oh, right. It's my fault.
It was. Do you remember that time when it was your fault?
I leave for one weekend and the whole show just falls apart.
There we go.
Jesus Christ.
There, now everybody can see it.
At
See,
all.
now everybody can be happy. There it is. They can see it on their screen. The beautiful image of Donald Trump at CPAC here in Orlando, John. They're here in Orlando. You're missing it.
Real quick. Elephant Man says orange bug bad. I thought it was...
I think I can play this. It might even... it'll be stupid though. Watch them throw an ad.
Copyright? Oh, it's CNN. Awesome.
Yeah, we love CNN.
Yeah,
they
they're
always
ad.
give us the straight Jimmy.
Yes. The generational gap endorses and condones CNN overlordship.
But they have the
So
worst
make sure
servers.
you watch CNN every day.
It always takes forever.
Trump's going to make his first
There we go.
presidential appearance this weekend. Conservative Political Action Conference in Orlando, CPAC. The same time, his former VP Mike Pence declined a chance to speak, supposedly because the former president and VP are supposed to stay quiet after the inauguration. That's why he says he's not going. Let's talk about who is going. Let's bring in the chairman of CPAC, Matt Schlapp. Good to see you, Matt. Why is this the right move for
Chris.
CPAC to give Trump the platform which somewhat presents him as a future prospect?
Well, I mean, the reason why it's right for President Trump to be at CPAC is because he just spent 4 years enacting the most conservative policy we've ever seen from any president, certainly any Republican president. And 73 million Americans voted for him. They thought the policies helped make America strong. We weren't.
Okay, so do you agree?
$26 trillion.
Do you agree?
Conservative.
Do we agree
No.
with this? I mean, the acquittal really garnered him a lot of positive vibes in the Republican voters again, and some Democratic voters. To the
I
extent
haven't seen that.
it wasn't a lot, but I mean, like, changed their opinion, as far as, because he was acquitted. But I don't know. But doesn't it, is his credibility shot? After 2 impeachments and everything that we went through after the election.
I mean, it should be. His credibility should be completely gone.
I mean, right. He shouldn't have enough credibility to be the mouthpiece of the Republican Party moving forward.
Mm-mm.
John, do you agree, disagree there?
I mean, obviously his mainstream, especially mainstream media credibility is obviously that's never existed. But no, I mean, there's a lot of people who see him as like a martyr at this point, which, and so I'm not endorsing anything, but for a smart move for the GOP would be for him, if he wanted to support the GOP, it would be to not come back for anything and to just be gone. That way he can continue to be a martyr instead of like trying to come back and have some kind of comeback. That will destroy his credibility with his base and with people who are especially diehard Trump supporters.
All right.
So what he needs to do is be gone, like I said, and they can continue to use him. Like, look what they did to Trump. Look what they did to Trump. And they can continuously hammer that into, all Republicans and any kind of right-leaning people for like the next 8 to, 12 years.
Right.
Well,
Thing is I don't think he's actually learned any lessons
least.
from this aside from don't trust the establishment. I think he wants to come back and hit it harder and win again in 2024 and be president again and make it his big comeback. And I think he wants to use that to primary a bunch of people like Mitch McConnell and people that didn't support him. He wants to try to use that clout to get them out of office.
and now McConnell apparently came out and said that he would be more than happy to see Trump as a Republican candidate in 2024.
He flip-flops so frequently.
Right, right. But
I don't get it.
now he's not. From what I understand, his position at this point, coming to CPAC, is in an effort to be the mouthpiece of the Republican Party, like take the lead for the Republican Party and get the midterm elections to swing Republican.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I don't know. Are the Band-Aids, are Band-Aids, a 2-year Band-Aid, going to be enough for the things that have happened just in the last 6 months that his voice is going to make a difference in Republicans being elected in 2022?
I fear that I have a fear, and I think a lot of other Republicans have a fear that if he tries that, what they want is more Matt Gaetz and Dan Crenshaw types. What they're going to get is more Marjorie Taylor Greene types, which they don't want. And it's going to end up backfiring.
How much is Biden policy going to make a difference in that? I mean,
That's a good question.
Is Biden throwing some punches right now that Trump's going to be able to come out and come out swinging against, and say, look at what's already happening?
I think I think what's going to happen is that they're going to see moderate Democratic candidates do worse, and they're going to see more progressive candidates at the congressional level do better because the Democrats are now mad at Biden that he has dropped $15 minimum wage, he has dropped stimulus checks, he has also dropped student loan forgiveness. He's dropped all of the things that he was promising in the lead up to the election to get the progressives on board to vote for him.
Right.
So what they're going to do is they're going to say, screw the establishment Democrats. We're running progressive candidates in every district that we can get progressive candidates on the ballot in. And so you're going to have progressive Democratic candidates instead of moderate Democratic candidates running in those races and winning those primaries. And they're going to be going against those hyper-partisan pro-Trump Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and those type of people. So you're going to see more partisanship. And if they can't manage to flip districts to Republican, they're going to end up with a bigger squad in the House, which is going to be terrible.
So it sounds like
Yeah.
it sounds like to me you're saying that any Republican that's thinking about running for the midterms should probably distance themselves from Trump as much as possible, so that you don't have to have the questions.
It depends
about
on the
it.
district because I work in elections, so it really, really depends on your district.
Really.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because that it's even even in areas where it would be it's okay to to be Republican and to support Trump, I would still think that the baggage that comes along with it, right? The questionable things that are going to be mainstream media is going to go with in your local elections, your state elections, etc., are just going to be it's a burden I wouldn't want to have around my neck. It's an albatross, whether it's good or bad. It's still an albatross that's got to be dealt with. Because I mean, take a look at Ted Cruz. I mean, he's getting beat up over this Texas thing, and I get it. I understand why he's getting beat up.
Yeah.
But the biggest reason why they are continually going after him is because he was such a staunch Trump supporter. And the mainstream media is not going to let go of those bones over the next 2 years.
because if they stop talking about Trump, they have to start talking about Biden, and they really don't want to do that.
Well,
Well, the
yeah.
thing is,
Oh, go
I was going to say, I think I've changed my answer, to who's going to be the Republican presidential nominee in 2024. So I was talking about Ted Cruz, but I think they've been hitting him way too hard. That I really think it's going to be DeSantis. Because too much stuff is sticking to Cruz. And I know, I said this before. I was like, I said it, I think, last Friday, actually, that I think DeSantis hasn't had enough time to really gain, prominence. He hasn't really put his name out there too much. But, like, recently, he's really changed that. And he's a lot more charismatic, I think, than Cruz is. And he doesn't have the same kind of gaffes that Cruz has had, whether they're warranted or not. Cruz has been all over the negative media recently. Who knows? I mean, maybe it's going to change in the next couple of years. But as where it's going now, I see DeSantis as a better candidate, actually, because every time they come at him with something, it just doesn't really stick. Like, no one really cares. You don't really see
He
the outrage there.
reminds me of Trump in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
to a
and he was a
certain-
big Trump supporter as well.
I don't know that there are going to be very many Republicans that are even willing to go against Trump in a primary. I mean, we saw what happened in the last one. Like, there were no primary challengers at all.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
Bill Weld, okay.
yeah.
but here then but it begins to beg, we can look at it and say, okay, well, there's a good chance that Trump would be the Republican nominee. I'm just saying there's a good chance, right? He could do enough reparations over the next
Well,
4
if he
years to
ran,
get in their
yes.
good graces,
If he
right?
ran, yeah.
But
Yeah.
then comes the question, will he get the votes? Because a lot of people will walk to the poll with this question: is this going to be the same shit show election bullshit that we went through 4 years ago?
It will be.
I
It'll be
don't.
worse.
Yeah.
So and then not cast a vote for Trump, right? And then
Yeah,
make
you're not
and
gonna
worsen
cast
the
my
situation, right? Of
It'll
course,
get
there's-
worse.
right? There's no way I can lose again, right? And then the election fiasco will go on. The only upside is that he won't be sitting in the White House making people wonder if he's going to leave. Right?
Yeah.
He
The
can't-
real kicker is going to be whether it's Biden running for re-election or whether it's Harris running.
Oh, I definitely believe it'll be Harris.
I think so, too.
I think the Democratic establishment
I still
will
don't think-
move him out within the first 4 years. John, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I still don't think Biden's gonna. I still don't think Biden's gonna survive the first 4 years, whether he, croaks or is removed for another reason. I don't think Biden's gonna serve a full term.
And you mean political survival, right?
Either one, yeah.
Right. Now,
I don't think he's gonna serve a full 4 years. Yeah.
right. And that's and I can honestly say that I really believe that at some point over the next 4 years, Biden is going to resign the office. I think that he will resign for personal reasons, whether it be, whether he equates it to medical reasons, whatever, but he will resign as opposed to being taken out of office, and Kamala will take over. And then she'll get a chance at 2 terms.
Let's speculate real quick. What do you think the chances are? Look, see how much he's quote unquote fucking up right now at the beginning, where he's abandoning all of his promises and he's, drone striking in Syria. Everything that he could be doing wrong, he is doing wrong. And there's no accountability. There's no one really talking about it too much. Give it another 6 months or so. What do you think the chances are that he resigns in shame? Everyone's calling for his resignation. He's like, oh, I'm going to do the right thing, unlike the previous, occupier of the White House. I'll do the right thing and step down for the good of America. And then Kamala becomes president.
Now, he is...
what do you think the odds are of that?
Now, you have to stop for a minute and remember, it's not that he's stepping away from things that he said he was going to do so much as he's so very focused on one thing right now, and that is getting a stimulus package through. Mm-hmm. But his mistake, the Democratic mistake,
for him right
now. And I can promise you, this is going to play well to Donald Trump coming out at CPAC this weekend, is that they tried to go big or go home with putting shit into the stimulus package. So they denied the $15 minimum wage hike that was built into the stimulus package.
Yeah.
They had a Senate exclusion that said, okay, if you're going to try and do it under this budget resolution to where it goes to a 50-50 vote, you cannot have the wage increase in there because it doesn't pertain to the budget. So they have to exclude that, but they're going to try and fight and get it in there to where a company is penalized if they're not paying a $15 minimum wage. But I think they tried to ask for too much too soon, right? They were like, oh, let's try and slam this $15 minimum wage in, while we can get it through. And that's going to hurt them. That's going to hurt from the Republican standpoint when you have Donald Trump able to stand up and blast that out there as a very big mistake that they shouldn't have done.
I don't know. I'm not convinced that Jill Biden will be running the show after a few months, honestly. Watch for significant diversions, not diversions, but watch for significant departures from the track that he's on right now to a different track in 6 to 8 months. That's when you know that Jill is calling the shots, because she's young. I mean, far younger than he is.
Yeah.
And she is very smart. I'm not convinced that that part of the deal with him, kind of getting the nomination, because that there were totally backroom deals done with that because nobody wanted him. I'm not convinced that part of the deal wasn't, well, but he does have Jill. Jill could do some of this. I'm not convinced that wasn't part of it. That she was like, well, he might not be able to do certain things, but I'll do it. I'll take care of it.
But
we've had presidents do that before. I mean, Woodrow Wilson that we mentioned earlier, he had a stroke, and his wife was basically running the show for the last part of his, presidency.
Well, but is Jill strong enough to stand up to Kamala? Because
I'm not convinced that they're not in it together.
really,
It
well,
wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they're Democrats, aren't they? They're in the same. Yeah,
It wouldn't
they're in the
surprise
same
me at
party.
all.
well, it's. But the thing that I think differentiates the difference between them is I imagine their agendas are completely different though, because I know what a Kamala's is, right? I mean, it's all about identity politics with her.
Ultimate
Which,
power.
right? Jill doesn't. Jill doesn't. I wouldn't expect Jill to be as focused on identity politics to be moving things in the direction that Kamala would be happy with. Especially Kamala sitting there knowing I'm next in line. If Joe's not in a position, she's chomping at the bit. She's got them ready to
But
take him out
Kamala
of office
has
when
the Senate
necessary.
in her pocket.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
she has the Senate. So should that kind of a scenario take place where the two of them are not on the same page and Jill is the one who's actually calling the shots, it will be Jill versus the Senate.
Yeah, but remember that Kamala has the ace up her sleeve. She can enact Amendment 25. So if he reaches a point to where Jill is needing to call the shots, I don't doubt for a minute that Kamala
But
would
then
pull
they
the
have
trigger.
to publicly admit that they elected a man that they knew could not do the job.
No, they don't.
Yes,
they
they
could,
do.
this
No,
could
they
have
don't have to
happened at
admit
any
anything.
time.
This
This could have
the
been.
Democrats we're talking about. They don't have to admit shit.
This could just be a tumor that cropped up and is suddenly started impairing
Right.
his
Suddenly.
decision making. Right. I mean, come
Hey,
on.
listen, Elaine, we're talking about people who don't care about their own hypocrisy, will be openly
Oh, I know.
hypocritical, and
If not for
care
double
when you tell
standards,
them
they
about
wouldn't
it.
have
They
them.
don't. Right, exactly. So, I mean, to say like that they would have to admit something. I mean, of course they don't.
I still
Of
don't.
course not.
I
They
still
don't have
don't.
to
Says,
admit
I can
anything.
picture
Somebody else
Kamala
would be white
screeching,
supremacist
I am the
fault.
Senate.
I still don't.
Right. Yeah.
I still don't believe Trump ever
Being
had
typing her life
COVID.
is on your form.
I mean, they fake this stuff all the time. I don't believe Trump had COVID. There was no way Trump had COVID at 70 years old and got rid of it in 3 days, and he was back to his good old fashioned self.
Well, no, also
Never.
to be fair though, he does have the access to the best medicine that the Western world has to offer. As a
Walter
president, he
Reed.
has more than AAA insurance. Like he has the best of the best of the best people.
Yeah.
How do you think the Queen
I
has
can
lived
see-
so long? It's the same deal.
Right,
know-
it's all adrenochrome. I mean,
You know,
Prince
it's good to-
Charles,
you can-
Charles got COVID. He's fine.
You can say that best
Yeah,
medicine
same deal.
shit all that you want, but I've seen a few presidents die. So, I'm just saying. But no, you know what? That's what I'm saying. I mean, whatever happens with Biden, it will be sudden. It won't be anything where anyone will try and make an argument, it will leave an open door for, somebody to say, oh, you knew he was sick. You knew he had mental issues. I mean, you think the mainstream media, they're going to allow the mainstream media to spin it? They're not going to feed the media anything that'll let them spin that. And they won't spin against Biden anyway.
But I think that but you're forgetting that there's that huge chasm between the progressives and the moderates. The moderates wanted Biden. Will they ever admit that something like that happened? No. But will the progressives say the moderates lied to us and turn and further turn more progressives against the moderates? I don't see that as beyond the realm of possibility.
But that's just because they're still butthurt over Bernie, right? I mean,
They're butthurt over a lot of things right now.
Right. But I mean, we all know Bernie should have had the nod twice, right? Should have had the nod twice and never got it. And so yeah, I mean, and I think that creates a lot of the current chasm that we have right now.
Do you think he'll try again?
No, not at all. He won't. I don't think he'll. I'm not sure Bernie will make it through his next term. Right, Bernie's on that questionable point to me, where it's like he looks hale and healthy, as it were, right? Like he talks a good game, like he's healthy and strong, but I honestly believe that he's going to be one of those suddenly Bernie Sanders passes away and, just suddenly,
Yeah.
like
I mean,
realistically.
he
from
has already had a
men.
heart attack.
Yeah. He's
So
just.
who is Kamala's running mate then?
So if she takes over and then she gets to
Cuomo.
run for her first term in 2024, her running
Cuomo.
mate will be another woman or a black
Oh yeah,
man.
you're right.
Pick a woman
hang
or
on.
a black
No,
man.
no. Oh my God, Cory Booker.
No.
Oh my God, I bet you it's Cory Booker.
No.
You don't think
Can't
so?
let that happen.
No,
You don't
no,
think it's
actually,
Cory Booker?
no.
Hillary says Ed.
No. I'm actually I'm gonna go ahead and throw this out there because I would assume that somebody's thinking it. But the perfect way to speak to the real voters at the time, in their minds, and to the right demographics, she'll choose AOC.
I don't think so.
You know what? You're right. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
No,
Why
I don't
not?
think so.
Oh.
That makes a
I
lot of
think
sense.
I think they would compete too much with each other. Like Kamala wants to be it. She wants
Oh yeah, you're right.
total authority. She would not
Sure.
she would not like someone
Oh,
like
but,
AOC
but
because
all you have-
AOC is
Well,
rogue.
see,
She'll go off and do what she wants to do.
all
She'll
you have-
slam whoever she wants to slam. She'll do all that. Kamala will not tolerate
She's
that.
gotta
She
give
wants
her
somebody
one-
who will toe the line.
Elephant Man. She won't be too young by then. Elephant Man.
She's right.
Just responding to Elephant Man. She
She
said
should.
she's too young. She won't be by then.
I believe she'll be old enough in 2024. But Kamala only has to give her one thing. One thing that will
Yeah, I believe
that
she'll
will
be
let
35.
that will let AOC go down in the annals of history, and that's just give her the green light for the Green New Deal.
But the moderate Democratic
Or do you
senators
agree
will
with
never
that?
go along with that. Putting AOC in
Ah.
charge of them will not work.
Still put it in her hands to try and get it through, make it happen, whatever. But if she throws her that bone, she can keep the power hold.
I feel like Kamala would choose someone like Pete Buttigieg. Buttigieg.
Just to get the LGBT.
Judge. Yeah.
He's a minority. He's still white, but he's a minority.
I don't know.
Well, he's a gay, isn't he?
AOC
Yeah,
AOC brings.
They're gonna want
so
to.
much
They're gonna want to not.
generation.
No, I think Kamala's gonna want to knock out that. Oh well, when I was elected with Joe Biden, I was the first woman of color. I was the first woman vice president, and now I'm going to bring along the first gay vice
Maybe.
president ever.
Wow.
Like I feel like they're
Yeah.
just going to continue that
Maybe, but
identity
think about
politics
this.
thing.
Wow, that's true.
You could be right, but they could also surprise us and choose Beto. Because he's been
Oh.
actually
Beto.
kind of prominent. I'm
I don't
not saying
think
it's a
she
good
would.
choice, obviously. I'm not agreeing.
Right,
Because
because
still, you don't think they're going to
I
do
think
a
it would.
tough on
I think
crime?
it would already be somebody
Kinda
within
deal?
the Biden administration. That's why I said Pete, because of the identity politics,
Huh,
but because he's
okay.
already serving in the administration.
right,
He
and
will have already worked
Right.
with him, and I think he is just impressionable enough that she could take him under her wing and make him her guy.
Mold.
And then,
Yeah.
like, she can't mold AOC that way, and that's why I think she wouldn't pick her.
Fair.
maybe.
Fair. Yeah.
I will say this, that Pete does check off a lot of boxes, and he gets rid of, he gets her a male on the ticket, and eliminates the bulk of any idea of toxic masculinity that you might get with a straight male, no matter what race. Yeah, I that's good, but it doesn't.
And he appeals to more moderate Democrats. She won't win on the progressive vote alone.
Do we?
He's moderate enough because he's progressive for the Midwest.
Okay,
He's progressive by Midwest definitions. I mean, I'm from Indiana. He, was mayor of South Bend. Like, he's from Indiana too. From Indiana, that's super progressive. So he'll appeal to those mid-America Democrats that are more moderate.
Okay, so the only thing I would have to question about this is you're checking off a lot of boxes with those two candidates, but you also run into this. You've got a large percentage of a very strong percentage of voters is the white demographic, the white establishment voter, right? So either one of those candidates going to appeal to the white establishment voter. Not that they're, vocally that, but it is it's what's underneath, right?
Yeah, I think Pete does in a way.
I mean, he won't play well as well
He's
to
gay,
the.
but he's not flamboyantly gay.
No, he's not. And I have to say, I give him credit for that because, like only a couple of 2 or 3 times during debates and stuff did he mention his husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like it was thrown up in your face. But is that enough to get the Christian on board with him?
He looks very normal. He does. He looks like a normal guy. He can present himself professionally. He, dresses right. He's got the right look. If he never opened his mouth, if he never talked about his husband, or if he was a single bachelor, like he could pass as straight to a voter who was uneducated, who didn't look into it or whatever.
Right, right.
And I mean, I hate to talk about it in those terms because it is really bigoted to say that, but honestly, so Democratic voters are looking for, like we said, the identity politics, like ticking the boxes, like they want to hit those markers, so to speak. And that's why I think Kamala is going to continue that tradition of, oh, we're going to have another historic ticket. So she's going to pick either another minority or somebody who's a minority in another way. They might not be a minority like they're from their skin color, their ethnicity, but I definitely could see her choosing him for those reasons.
What if I threw out the idea that depending on how things go in the mayoral race, or is it the governor? Is he running for mayor or governor? Governor. Andrew Yang is making a play for New York.
Maybe.
Yes.
And now
Mayor,
he
right?
checks boxes, a lot of boxes.
I think he's too independent. And that was why they didn't like Tulsi. They didn't like Tulsi because she actually filled
he has his own ideas.
But he also
Yes.
he also has a very strong understanding of hierarchy and leadership too. He would be able to flow into the role of vice president as long as his voice was being listened to, because he's not going to be, Kamala has talked about UBI. He's talked about UBI. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things where they would be on the same page, and he wouldn't have to be in charge as long as he was making a difference. That's his take, I think.
But again, with that relationship with the Senate, I don't think Senate Democrats are going to listen to someone like Andrew Yang.
Well, I think that depends on what happens with New York. I think that would factor into it, right?
Maybe.
Andrew Yang's prospects in Washington hinge on this. If he can land New York and make a difference in some way, shape, or form, like have a positive impact while he's doing it, I think it's going to be very interesting, because I wonder if he's not going to, if he does, win in New York, if he wouldn't institute the first statewide UBI.
I still think it's going to be somebody from within the administration that she's worked with that she can trust, because if she can't trust them to be loyal to her, she will not choose them.
I think trust is a fool's game at this point in
well,
Washington,
maybe not
anyway,
trust,
right?
But someone that she can manipulate.
I mean,
because you can't tell me that she is not manipulative as all get out.
Well, she is, and that's why I really am more concerned with, when she's going to make a move for the presidency during this term. And and with Kamala Harris, even being Joe Biden's second in command, I worry about the First Amendment. I worry about the Second Amendment, but more so I worry about the First Amendment because, they've done enough to the Second Amendment that I don't know that anybody can defend the First Amendment anymore, or very well, right? And that's what's going to happen. I'm expecting in this administration for censorship to take a big hold on social media, and it's going to start being regulated in a much more authoritarian way, to worry about everybody's feels. And Kamala Harris is going to be a big proponent behind that, especially if she's even listening to people like AOC, right?
I think it's really going to come down to if they, so here's my other prediction, because here's the other thing that plays into this, like we were talking about earlier, that 2-year Band-Aid with Trump. The same applies for the Democrats. Like I was talking about, if Biden keeps walking back the progressive policies he promised, and we're going to see more progressives, then Kamala might make her play before midterms so that she can be like, okay, calm down, everybody. We're on the right track now. Like, I'm going to save the agenda that we promised. I'm going to follow through. Joe's just not with it, whatever. And she will soothe the fears of the progressives to keep everybody together, to keep that chasm from growing.
Well, so
I feel like that will be the timing of it if it's going to happen. If not, then I think Joe Biden just won't run for re-election and she will.
I've honestly been concerned whether or not we'll get through 2021 with Biden in the seat of power for the entire first year. I don't know that he will. I honestly don't. Just because I think they're going to play the game hard and fast because they want as much of this term as they can. Because the beauty of it is it doesn't count as a term for her.
Right.
She gets to run 2 more elections after this.
Yeah.
Maybe.
If she wins, right? I mean,
maybe. If she takes over for him, because we had this happen in Indiana a couple years ago. I think it was the Secretary of State. One of those lower offices at the state level. A woman was appointed to serve that role because someone else stepped down. And so she was appointed for interim. Well, she held the interim position for 2 years. Then she ran for election and she won. So she served her first term. And then she ran for election again and won a second term. Well, it's a 2-term limit office. They're making her leave early for second term so that she doesn't serve more than X number of years. So she doesn't serve more than 8 years. So currently we don't have that provision as far as elections go, but they could enact that provision so she can't serve as president for more than 8 years. So if she serves 2 years now or a year now, it wouldn't look good if they made her quit her second term early. That would just be very strange to me. I feel like that wouldn't happen. More feasible at the state level, but not for that office. So they'll have to figure that out if she wins a second term. Like, okay, well now what do we do? Right.
Well, I want to say that I've read about this, not in this particular situation, but we have one president. This is one of those times where I wish we had our friend Cam here, who he served, was it 3 or 4 terms that he was
FDR?
Was it FDR that was it 3 or 4 terms that he was?
It was 4.
Right, and 2 of those were full presidential terms of 8 years, right?
His last term, he did not serve the full term because he died in office.
Oh, right. But there wasn't. I don't believe there's a mechanic built into the Constitution to limit you running and serving 2 terms, even provided that you went into office because you were.
But that's what I mean. I feel like Republicans will introduce an amendment, but that would take a law to limit that term. They'll amend the previous term limit rule to say, or to serve for 8 years consecutively as president.
Do you think they would go through trying to get a 2/3 national vote to do that? Because they have to get 2/3 of the states on board with that.
I think they would.
Really?
Because we're looking at the potential. I mean, we're only going to see partisanship grow. So if they don't do it, their entire base is going to get pissed. Because that's what the base will want. The base will not want 1 day more of Kamala Harris than they have to tolerate.
Well, your partisanship is not going to go away anytime soon, no matter who's sitting with Biden in the White House, Harris in the White House, or with Trump coming in 2024. Partisanship is not going to stop anytime soon, no matter what happens.
No, definitely not.
And that's the biggest problem I have. And, it's like, because you can't just wave a magic wand and go to a one-party system, right? Or can we, John? Is there a way?
Yeah, there's definitely a way to do that. I wouldn't condone it. I wouldn't advocate for it.
Is
But
it a magic
certainly
wand?
there, there are several examples of a magic wand being waved. I don't know, and
Waved is better.
all of a sudden there's a one-party system with one person in charge. It's crazy how that works. And it happens a lot of times in South American countries. It happens a lot of times in Middle Eastern countries. Happens a lot of times in a few Asian countries as well, where those sorts of things happen. Yeah, there's definitely some examples of that happening.
Did you guys see the newspaper headlines from around the world after our election was over? How some of them were characterizing them. I think it was it might have been Kenya, but their newspaper headline was about our election, and it said, "Who's the banana republic now?"
Oh, I saw that. Yes.
I was like, "Whoa,
Right.
burn!"
Yeah,
And it's
right. Like, all right, fair enough. You deserve that.
Fair enough.
Real quick, Elephant Man says he believes it's
Yeah.
10 years is the longest any president can serve. So
Okay.
so apparently there's some. I
Right.
would assume it's a constitutional cap. On
Yeah,
the
there
amount
must
of
be
years.
like a byline or something in there when they enacted term limits after FDR. Yeah, I mean, Congress was so terrified of FDR, the way that he wielded executive power, that they immediately passed term limits after he died.
So that means Kamala's got to play. She's got to hedge her bets for at least 2 years and hope Biden can string it out for that long.
Or Jill can bring it out for that
I was
long.
just going to say, let Jill carry the ball for a little bit till she gets to that point.
I mean, wasn't there just a picture out of Biden like yesterday or today or something like that, where he's just literally sitting in a meeting asleep?
You know what?
He's a grandpa. Like,
But
he
you know
wants
what?
to-
Was it a video or
He
was it a
wasn't
picture?
sleeping. He was
I
resting
think it was a
his
photo,
eyes.
and
And
he's
how
like
many
got
ti-
his mask on and everything, and he's just like,
And how many
He's
times
like-
how many times has the photo been taken of you and they caught you in a blink? And then what do you
That's
do?
true.
What do you do if you're in the
Almost
mainstream
never.
media?
except
Here's
except
Biden
he
to
had
sleep.
that except he had that
Well-
posture that I recognize so well because my dad is doing this now because he's at that age. The posture of I literally fell asleep in my chair
Yeah,
because your posture
you can
changes
tell when
slightly.
someone's asleep.
Yeah.
I would think Biden
yeah.
would at least be cool enough to wear sunglasses, so like John does on the show.
But also-
when John's sleeping on the show, you can't tell.
Yeah, you can never tell when I'm sleeping.
The sun never
I
sets
talk
in the
either
pool.
way. So, see, sun never sets in Coolsville is what it is. Yeah, that's right. Damn it, I'm just not wearing them right now because the lighting it would be completely
Obviously, that would
ridiculous.
yeah, you wouldn't be able to see anything.
Right.
But
But
I-
yeah, normally every other episode after like I don't know what was it after like episode 17, 15, something like that. Like one of the early episodes, I started wearing the sunglasses. There's a few of them that I don't have them on.
I'm extremely
not many.
boring. It's my hallmark. That's my thing. Is I'm extremely boring. I can put people to
That's
sleep.
what you're bringing to the show.
So
Also, Jay Edgar said that I sounded a lot like Elaine just there. I guess when I was talking about the waving the magic wand and dictatorships and whatnot.
But but you know how I feel about that. It's just that would it's not going to go off right. Like anything like that. It's just, I mean, look at 2 failed attempts to here we go, nothing. Here we go, nothing. Right? Like, I mean, it's talked about and like, oh, this is the beginning, and it just
March 4th.
because it's not organized. Like for something like this to happen, you got to bring people. For something like that, you need an. I condone nothing I'm about to say. I'm just using words that are in the dictionary to prove a point. You need an army of people,
Yeah, the
an
dictionary is
organized
racist.
army, if you're going to do something like that. And that's not happening. That's not what we're seeing.
No.
It's splintered little groups and no cohesion, and they think they're organizing on social media and it's just being shut down, or it's not coming off as a cohesive effort. Without that, you will never take over the establishment or remove the establishment, replace the establishment, because the establishment's got too much on its side that it can bring to bear. I'm sorry, but I mean, even a call to militia is going to pull people up to help the government out. All the people that they pander to on a regular basis. You know, there will be people that stand up, and granted, they'll have airsoft pistols and kitchen knives, but you know,
Slingshots was more like it.
right? You know,
Like Dennis the Menace slingshots, you know.
but there's
We'll just like set Home Alone booby traps for the government, like all of the government.
your privacy has been eroded so much that you don't have, you can't, no one could think it could really successfully build something like that, build the army necessary to take on the establishment. The Fourth Amendment has been destroyed enough to where they will know when it's happening, as it's coordinated, where it's going to happen.
And that's exactly why they're against data privacy. And that's one of Andrew Yang's big things, is he is totally for data privacy.
Sure.
They'll never let that come to pass.
But so
the only way that could come to pass is if blockchain communication technology progresses by leaps and bounds. And I don't think that that's happening quickly enough. So we're not there yet. Like it just doesn't exist.
Yeah, and I don't buy into any establishment figure, whether it be government, corporations, whatever, telling me that they value my privacy. Apple can tell me all day long they don't have a back door built in, but I can tell you right now, everybody has a back door built in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who you are.
They're required to by law. To even have that company, to even offer those services, one of the things they're required to have is a back door.
Right.
Which is why a lot of these encrypted texting apps and things like that are getting registered in like Switzerland, because they don't have those laws.
And when a politician tells me that they value my privacy, oh, no, you don't. If you valued my privacy, your primary policy you'd be running on is getting rid of the Patriot Act first thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not going to tell me you're getting rid of the Patriot Act, I don't want amendments to it. I don't want changes. Go. Make it gone. Then you're telling me you care about my privacy. But there's no way we can that anybody could ever form enough of any kind of revolution against this establishment at this point.
We are too dependent on technology now, and the technology has been so corrupted, it just won't happen.
There is one way it can happen.
There is no anonymity anywhere anymore. You are born and assigned a number.
Now, I tell you what could make it happen. The one time that I could see it actually happening is if we were invaded on our soil. We had to repel an invasion, and vis-a-vis in that time, then run a takeover of the government while we're in the middle.
We're totally getting kicked off YouTube.
Right? But I mean, these are the only make-believe scenarios I could ever see that something would change with our government. Like
for legal purposes, this is not real.
In a video game.
If I were making a video game, if I were in charge of this.
In a video game, yes.
Right, in a video game. No, I mean, that's I try and run through these scenarios constantly in my head ever since the start of the talk of the igloo. And it's just like, no. I run into dead ends constantly. Mm-hmm. And this is why I have such a problem with people trying to, the rhetoric that people are out there screaming and hollering. It's like you're like a dog barking at other dogs in the neighborhood. You're not getting out of your fucking fence. You're pinned in. You're chained up back there in the backyard. Keep barking all you want, but it's going to do you no good. Not at this point in time. There's too much left now. There's too much on the left.
Mm-hmm.
And that's...
Yeah, because the Republicans allowed it to happen.
And that's because you libertarians haven't figured out how to infiltrate the left and get them to get their heads out of their asses.
Oh, wait, I thought we were infiltrating the right.
Look, you have one job, and that's infiltrate both sides. You're supposed to spread like a virus, right? Do something with yourselves. God damn it. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, the problem is there's not enough libertarians to do that.
Yeah. Our group is too small. Our voting block is too small.
Well, it doesn't help that you're also the non-confrontational political group for the most part, right?
Have you ever spent time in libertarian Facebook groups? We are very confrontational.
Sure. Keyboard
they're
warriors always
very
are.
confrontational.
We are extremely confrontational.
Right? Right? Yeah, I get you. But it's like I've seen I've experienced the libertarian spectrum too, and it's just, you know, you're as partisan within the libertarian group as Democrats are and as Republicans are. You know,
Yes.
that internal partisanship is the downfall of any party. You know, nobody's got a cohesive message anymore. Nobody. You know, because every time somebody says something, they say they're speaking for the party. All of a sudden, the next thing you see is interviews with people from the party who are like, oh, I don't agree with that shit. I don't agree with that shit.
Right.
Right? He probably sent somebody a dick pic. Let's cancel it. Right? I mean, you know, what do you do? You know, if just cancel them, right? But yeah, there's no message. I mean, even with libertarians, I don't feel like I got any message. And then the party resorts to identity politics in their selection for a presidential candidate.
I don't think that's what happened at all.
I think Joe might have been. I think she was more a woman. They were putting a woman forward, more so than a libertarian candidate.
No, Joe's very libertarian.
I
Her
get it.
campaign platform was plank by plank the Libertarian Party platform, like period.
But was she the strongest candidate in your opinion?
None of them were strong. My opinion was that none of them were strong.
At
None
all?
of them. No, none of them.
Okay, so then that brings up an interesting question. If she was plank by plank the libertarian message, how is that not strong enough? I mean, is that not basically saying the libertarian message is not strong enough?
No, the principles are strong enough. The messaging was not what it needed to be.
Because she couldn't sell it.
No, not her. I mean,
Oh.
the candidates don't write the messaging. The
Right.
candidates communications department writes the messaging. That's what people don't understand. They love to blame Joe or me. I mean, because I work Joe's social media. They love to blame me for things that went wrong. And I keep having to remind people, like, that wasn't my job. My job was to package the messaging I was given
Yeah.
and get it out at the right time, you know, fight the algorithms, to get it to reach as many people as possible. That was my job. My job wasn't writing the statements for her or deciding what thing was important that week or anything. I mean, I had a say in it, but it wasn't my decision in the end. So the messaging was not what it needed to be. And that fell on communications. They should have done better and been a little bit more bold with some of their messaging and statements. It's not that the principles aren't strong enough. The principles are great. I mean, that's why I'm a libertarian. But if you don't know how to write good messaging, or you're not in a position to save someone who is in that position from making bad decisions, then you're just kind of stuck with it. Between Joe and Spike, they had the endorsement of every single caucus within the party. There were no holdouts at the end. Between those two candidates, president, vice
Real
president,
quick.
they were endorsed by every single caucus that is part of the Libertarian Party, which is great. And I think a lot of people were hopeful in the beginning that would, like within the party, create kind of a unity ticket type of thing. And it just didn't. Like, it just didn't coalesce in that way. And that was due to a lot of things, personality differences and team structure and, you know, just a lot of different factors.
Hold on one second.
And campaigns are always just chaos. Like, it's chaos start to finish on a campaign. Just always. Doesn't matter how short or long they are or what office it is. I worked a U.S. Senate race. It was chaos start to finish, and it was only 3 months long. So that part of it I was not surprised by.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. There were no the only standout candidate we had was Justin Amash, and certain people within the party and the drama that surrounded convention with whether or not it was going to be online and who felt disenfranchised by that and who felt cheated by that and those kinds of things, I think honestly scared him off. And if he had stayed in, it would have been it would have been a totally different race if he had stayed in.
What's going on, John?
Yeah, I like John Mott. I was saying I liked John Mott in the primaries for the Libertarian Party.
John's great.
I thought he was really good. I thought he was solid.
Mm-hmm.
I liked him and his bow tie. He's just. I mean, I guess he didn't make much of an impression, but I mean, I don't know. I thought he was.
He entered a little bit later than most of the other candidates.
Stage.
Yeah, he entered last. Well, I say he entered last minute, but Justin entered afterwards. But
I'm going to try and get.
He keeps cutting out.
Yeah. No.
I volunteered with John in the primaries, and I like John a lot. I mean, John had never held office. I mean, I don't think any of the other candidates had either, aside from Justin. But when he ran for governor of Georgia, he got over 1 million votes.
So, I don't know. I don't know that I have the right way to articulate what I'm trying to say here. But when you're talking about the libertarian message, and it wasn't being written right, it wasn't being put out there properly. What the party wanted. In my mind, I imagine the Libertarian Party is different as far as like the party trying to get a message through the candidate, as opposed to the candidate speaking for themselves. Does that make sense? I mean, I understand the message of the party. I get it. But it needs to come from that. For Libertarian, I would expect it to come from the candidate, right? Not like having a speechwriter write everything flowery speech, but like the candidate actually putting forward their words, something more individual, more, I don't know.
If you ever watch any of the live clips that we had put out of Joe's campaign stops on her bus tours, those speeches were always really good. And those were her. I mean, those were very much her. And I think that resonated with people more so than the super polished stuff that communications tried to pass off as Joe. I think if we had integrated more of the stump speech into the messaging, that it actually would have gone a lot better. Because that was when she was actually making strong statements herself in her own words, where she had a strong message against Kamala Harris.
Right.
And, people had gotten upset about her initial statement about her, like, oh yeah, it's nice to see another woman in the race kind of a thing. Wasn't an endorsement of her at all. But yeah, people took it as identity politics, and that really wasn't her intention at all. She's a very nice lady. But yeah, there was a lot of things that could have been done better. I will totally admit to that. And I think everybody who worked on the campaign would say the same thing. Like, there were a lot of things that we all could have done better, but we were working with, what we had. Every single libertarian presidential race is, we have to make something out of nothing, because that's what we have. That's all we have. We have nothing. We start with nothing. We have no money. We have no big funding. We have nothing like that. Right. It just doesn't exist.
Well, and that was, it was, my entire vote in the election was just the hope of, maybe getting enough percentage for the Libertarian Party to get on the stage next summer.
They would have changed the rules at the last minute. They always do. They did the exact same thing to Gary.
Yeah.
Gary was at like 13% right before when they started to need to hit that 15% in those polls. And they immediately tried to trap him with that Aleppo question, and he fell for it. And because he's not good at those. And I adore Gary. I've worked with Gary, but he's just not good at those gotcha moments. He doesn't see him coming the way
Right.
that I wish he did. And other people that work with him say the same thing. You know, we just wish that he could just see those gotcha moments right before he says anything so that he can head it off. If not for that, he would have hit 15% within another 3 weeks probably, and they would have. But then they would have done what they did with Joe, is they would have just started leaving him off those qualifying polls. She was not on one single qualifying poll for the debate, not one single one. So even if she had been polling at 10%, they would have just said, "Oh, well, that's not a qualifying poll. It doesn't matter." Like that's not enough to put her on a qualifying poll and make her eligible for the debate stage. They just wouldn't have done it. The media gets so many kickbacks from politicians in the form of access that they are not willing to put those relationships in jeopardy.
All right, so let me throw a crazy scenario at you. What if Donald Trump ran as a libertarian?
It would never happen.
You don't think he would go that route?
There is no way for him to run as a libertarian, because he would have to get nominated via a convention of delegates.
Sure.
The only way that is possible is if Republicans change their voter registrations en masse, become delegates, which is a process in itself and is handled by the states, and then go to the convention and vote for him. We only nominate by convention. We do not have state primaries.
Sure. But
and that is so unlikely to happen.
You don't think he could get enough traction in time to work that ticket?
No.
If he didn't feel like the Republicans would support him on another run?
No, I don't think he would.
Because I would think he would have enough traction with the voters. I mean, if I'm a libertarian, I would
also,
be like...
Also, not only that, but, and I don't know what mechanisms exist for this because I'm not a person who's like super familiar with the bylaws and things like that. There is probably a fail-safe where the national committee could censure him and basically just say he is not our candidate. If there was a party takeover where Republicans switched over, became libertarians, somehow got nominated at their state conventions to be delegates, and overtook our convention, that would be the only way that it's possible. And they would have to start now if they were going to do that. And they don't play the long game.
Well, you know, I've said this about the politics as usual in Washington, that the only way that's going to change is if a third candidate can get on the presidential stage in the debates to break up the monotony.
They just won't. The media is not interested.
Well, I mean, right. But if the Libertarian Party could get enough support behind them, right? And that's always seems to be the issue, because the votes would be there if the support was behind the Libertarian Party.
Well, then let me ask you this. Where do you foresee that support coming from? Like, what kind of support are you talking about? Like financial support or a voting bloc or both? Or
well, when you talk about a candidate, you know, that will garner support from the American public, yeah, money's going to flow from the American. I mean, it does to the two main party candidates regularly, right? Even when they're just in the primaries.
They have a very robust party structure behind them, sure. And our party structure is not like that.
Well, then I guess that needs to be fixed. I mean, because isn't that the only way there's ever going to be a chance?
It's a chicken egg thing. You can't make the infrastructure bigger if you don't have the people to staff the infrastructure. And since we are a small party, it's like we can't grow the infrastructure because we don't have the funding to pay people to be staff of that infrastructure. So we need more people before we can make the infrastructure bigger.
Okay, so then my thought is that if I'm a game player and I want to play the game in Washington, then if I could sway someone like Donald Trump to stand up for my party, then that would draw everything like flies to honey. You know, the face, because that's, you know, there's something lacking in the Libertarian Party to where it can't get.
We don't want Donald Trump, that's for sure.
Okay.
He's not a libertarian, definitely.
No, but he wasn't. I don't think he was a Republican at the time he switched over to Republican either, right? We know he's willing to put on whatever face is necessary, and
That's not good enough for libertarians. We
Well-
have already had that experience. We have been ghosted after the first date so many times with people just leaving and going back to the Republican Party that we are not interested in anybody that we think is just going to desert us after the nomination.
well, that's I could see that. I mean, it's so I don't then that makes me question. What is the? I hate to say it, but what's the point to the Libertarian Party then? If it's inevitable that you're never going to see the stage.
The party's purpose is to elect libertarians.
Right.
And we do that successfully at the local level. Most people have absolutely no idea that we do it successfully at the local level because we win in nonpartisan races where you don't have an L after your name. And that's how we are taking over some of these, municipal governments or state governments or whatever. I mean, that's our ticket in, is if libertarians run on a nonpartisan ticket where it's literally just 3 or 4 candidates, principles and ideas versus principles and ideas, and people don't have that party label to tell them who's a Republican and who's a Democrat, libertarians actually win. So to me, that proves your question earlier, are the principles strong enough or is the messaging strong enough? The answer is yes, it is, because they win nonpartisan races. So if you're just comparing principle to principle, it's there. We have it.
Okay. So then that just kind of strengthens the idea that, okay, so when people see the libertarian brand, they don't vote for it. If they don't know it's there, then they'll
I had
vote
somebody
for
once ask me, "Oh, Ron Paul, he's like Bernie Sanders, right?" No. Like literally the opposite of Bernie Sanders. What are you talking about?
Right.
So we have as a party a messaging and a branding problem.
Right.
Because we have people that are in the party that think that, I don't know, running on stage naked is a cool thing to do at convention. So sure, it's a great gimmick, but it does not make the average voter take you seriously.
Well,
And there is a subset of people within the Libertarian Party that are jokers. And I don't mean jokers like they want to play practical jokes. I mean, they are the Joker from Batman. They just want to see the world burn. Right. So they're not concerned about winning elections. They like being the loudest. They like being, they like being the big fish with influence in the small pond. The second you start talking about making the party bigger, making it more inclusive, making it big tent, making it whatever you want to, whatever terminology you want to use, they see that as a threat to their position and they will stop it at any cost. And that is an inter-party problem that we have to figure out how to solve. And the only way really to solve that is to make the party bigger so that those voices that are more fringe get drowned out by pragmatists that actually can sell ideas to people who are maybe not registered as libertarians, maybe not familiar with libertarianism, they're fence sitters or they're moderates or they're whatever. But if they see a weak candidate from the Republicans or a weak candidate from the Democrats and they don't want to vote for the other major party candidate, they'll choose the libertarian because they so hate the other party that it works to our advantage. And this is true in ranked choice voting states. They want to vote for that Republican. They want that Republican to win. But the very last person that they're going to put on their ballot is the Democrat. So they'll put everybody else in between.
Right.
So they'll stick the Democrat at the bottom every time because they want to lessen that chance of them winning. So, I don't know. It's so complicated.
Right. Well, I think libertarians have to fight the idea that there's this unspoken stigma about libertarians, right? Like this, bad, negative connotations, or whatever you want to call it, to where it's like, okay, is this a cult? Or libertarians just a cult kind of thing? Wanting to do Civil War reenactments, or doing Revolutionary War reenactments, and is this just like some culty thing? Because yes, the branding and messaging isn't out there that really teaches people what libertarianism is. I was like, a lot of more people, I think, would have listened if they had talked more about how Trump had some policy ideas, some policy enactments that were more libertarian minded. Even John has said this, that there were things he was doing in office that were more liberty minded than one would have
But then there were
expected.
things that but then those libertarian-ish things that libertarians defended early on, he undid by the end of his term. Like
Yeah.
revoking the executive order to not allow White House staff to be lobbyists. Like libertarians cheered for that. We were like, okay, great. Like you want to drain the swamp? Step number one, that's a pretty good, stake to the heart right there, is making them take a step back from Washington and not allowing them to be in those Senate chambers and those meetings with these people, with legislators. That's great. And then he turned around and revoked it because he wanted his guys to be able to do it. He didn't want Democrats to be able to do it that had served under Obama, but he wanted his people to be able to do it. Right. So it still went right back around to that, well, I don't want you to do it, but I want to be able to do it kind of thing.
Right.
Which is the problem with a lot of these policies. And Democrats are about to learn a really hard lesson that some of the precedent they set with Trump, with the ways that they attacked him and things that they tried to charge him with and stuff like that, Republicans are going to turn around and do the exact same thing because now those precedents have been set.
Right.
So whatever the Democrats got away with doing to Trump, the Republicans are going to try to get away with doing to any future Democratic president too. It just goes back and forth. It's just a tennis match. That's it.
John wants me to ask you about what you think about the Mises Caucus and Dave Smith
Mises
wanting
Caucus?
the Mises. Is it Mises?
It's Mises.
I never met the person, so I don't know. And Dave Smith wanting to take over the LNP.
The LNC?
He said LNP. I'm just reading what he's got.
LNP.
The Libertarian National Party.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
The Mises.
We never call it the LNP. We always just call it the LP.
Oh.
The LNC is the Libertarian National Committee, which is why I thought it might have been a typo.
John's letting. I think John's letting a little of his boomer show. He's more boomer than anyway. But anyway, so the Mises Caucus and Dave Smith. Do you have an opinion on that?
So I was part of the Mises Caucus early on, and basically they were formed to oust Sarwark as chair, and that was like their whole mission. And they failed because they didn't win that election. He served one more term. And then the person they endorsed for chair this last time didn't win either. But we have a fine chair. I have no problems with the chair that we have now. I do have a problem with the toxicity that exists in the Mises Caucus. I don't like that. But also, as I have been a part of the party for longer, I mean, I only joined the party itself, the party proper, in 2017. So I really haven't been in the party politics side of it for that long. And the more I've been around the caucuses and learned like what different ones are about, the things that they advocate for and the things that they want to do. I mean, libertarians are supposed to be anti-collectivists by nature. And yet we have a caucus for like everything. Like we have a Waffle House caucus. We have a sex worker caucus. We have a Mises caucus. We have a pragmatic caucus. We have a radical caucus. We have a caucus for everything. We could have a pie lovers caucus. I don't know. But we have a LP wood chippers caucus for a certain subset of the population that thinks it's okay to hurt children. So your face. So To me, I just like, I don't know. I have a problem with all of those caucuses encouraging that collectivism. So I just stay out of all of it. And I find that personally, I'm more effective doing what I do, not being a part of any caucus, really, just being my own individual person. Because as soon as you associate with a caucus, someone else from another caucus has an issue with it. And so then they don't want to work with you on something, but maybe you really wanted to work with them on something. And like, it makes all of that more difficult. I feel like it's just building more walls within the party, and it's not helpful. I mean, I get that it's like the natural
Right.
structure of a party,
Right.
but I don't like it.
I mean, that's the structure of a party, and then that's also just the way the parties interact in Washington, right? As soon as you say you're part of this party, every assumption is made about what you think and what you do, and so it negates a good portion of the conversation where you could actually find your middle ground, right? So we have all the partisanship that goes on. I mean, that is, I guess that's ultimately the problem I have with the libertarian idea is that, yeah, it's not about being a collective. It's not about being confrontational. It's not about, identity. It's not about any of these things, but it is all of those things that are going to be necessary to compete with that party place. So it's like, the Libertarian Party has to become something that can compete with those things. And unfortunately, I think that requires that it becomes much more like them to do that. And that will just defeat the purpose of being libertarianism, right? Mm-hmm. I mean,
yeah.
Now I'm a proponent of a presidential election being done by anonymous debate and by anonymous vote. Like,
how would you even administer an anonymous debate?
You give them numbers. How do they talk to people that witness people in witness protection program? They interview them, right? They change their voices. They put them behind silhouette screens, whatever. You have all your debates. You have all your candidates, whatever, and it's done anonymously. You don't know who's running.
But that would destroy the integrity of a debate, because the debate is meant to be an opportunity for you to read body language, tone, and if you're changing people's voices and not allowing them to see the candidates at all, then you destroy that side. I mean, so much of how we communicate to people is in our body language.
Right.
So if you can talk well, but your body language sucks, or you can lie really, really well, and your body language communicates that lie, but your words don't, you lose out on that context. So I wouldn't be in favor of it just for that, because you can be very manipulative with words and your body language gives you away. And if you take that away, then you're depriving people of that full experience of maybe getting those context clues that they need to be able to make their decision.
Yeah, but
in theory, I like the idea of that, where it's just principle versus principle, answer versus answer.
But see, we already have that scenario in place. I mean, how much of what is said during debates, during interviews, is decontextualized? Right? Like some little this and some little that, or just the word that was used, where they just completely twist the intent of the word and even give the context that it was said in, but imply that the word was meant in a different way. Right? Donald Trump stood and said, "We have to fight." And then the Capitol building was overrun. Mm-hmm. He said the word fight, which has been said thousands of times by presidents throughout the years. But he said fight and somebody fought, so that he meant go, raid the Capitol building. It's going to get twisted no matter what. What matters is, in an anonymous scenario, is that, yes, you have to rely on what you're saying. And if it is bullshit, well, that's going to come out, because we already tear apart everything, every statistic that a president puts out, everything they say. The media will sit there and expose it and say, yes, but is this possible? This is what would have to happen. This is how they plan to do it. Or when they don't give a plan, but you don't have their used car salesperson smile and affected emotion in your face while you're listening to what they actually have to say. There's got to be a way that we could do this to where we get rid of a party affiliation, everything about a candidate, so that it's actually their policy that we're hearing and what they intend. We can determine that they're a Republican, a Democrat, a Libertarian from what their policies are that they're putting forward. But, you know, knowing a candidate is a Democrat or a Republican garners a ton of votes without a word being said because voting party lines. And that's
Right.
that's what's going to happen with the Libertarian Party is you've got to build a party that's big enough to take on two other parties in the establishment and convince people to toe a party line in their vote, not vote because it's the libertarian principle.
The other part of this is that it's been my experience in talking with voters, and lots of voters, is that they tend to vote based on fear.
Mm-hmm.
And the two major parties weaponize fear at every turn. You know, Democrats do it all of the time. They're going to take away your health care. They're going to take away your access. They're not going to pay you $15 an hour. You're not going to be able to live. Republicans do the exact same thing.
Sure.
They're going to let all the illegal immigrants in. They're going to legalize abortions. They're going to make it so easy to get an abortion. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And libertarians don't message like that. We message about solutions. So we're not pushing fear all of the time, not in the same way that the Democrats and Republicans are. I mean, people are detached from that concept of liberty and true freedom. So when we message in a way that is, I guess our fear mongering is, fear of losing our liberty, people are so detached from that because they all have different definitions of what liberty is to them. So we're talking about not losing our liberty, and we mean a certain specific thing. But when we say that and message that to Republicans and Democrats, they think of something differently when they're thinking liberty.
Well,
so libertarians are over here taking the high road, and everybody else is in the ditch slinging mud, and the voters are all focused on that ditch because they're just like, look at what's happening, and they're not looking anywhere else. They don't. And there's no incentive for Democrats and Republicans to solve any of those big problems at all because it's productive for them to use that as campaign material to get people to push the button.
so
They're never going to solve illegal immigration because they can use it as a campaign issue.
Right. Well, so then perhaps the Libertarian Party needs to learn to use fear in the right way. Use the right angle with fear.
I don't disagree.
And that simply needs to be, it's not a list, it's not about what Democrats are going to do to you or what Republicans are going to do to you. What it needs to be is a laundry list of the liberties that have already been taken away from you. Look, these are the things that have already been done. You don't have to be afraid of these things because they're already there and you're living your life with them already. So you've made your peace. But what we want to do is try and give these liberties back to you, right? Play on the fear of something that's already happened. Take them through the steps of grief immediately so that they can move on from loss and reach that point where they're angry and they want to fight back.
Yeah. I would like to, personally, as a personal project, I would really like to identify the libertarians in the party or people that are associated with the Libertarian Party that might not be in the party for whatever reason, that typically most libertarians agree message themselves well. And then I want to analyze that and figure out, why are these people rising to the top and being identified as good messengers of liberty, and what are they all doing right and what are they all doing wrong, and how can we expand on that? How can we make that something that anybody in the party can learn to do? Because I think everybody should be trained in how to message liberty from county level all the way up to national. Everybody should know how to message our principles in the right way to reach the people that they want to reach. So it's going to be heavily dependent on the area in which you live or the other people that you interact with, people that are coming to your meetings or whatever. You're going to have to learn your audience first. But there's got to be somebody in the party who's messaging well that speaks to those people that you can emulate.
Right.
And I think if we can do that, we can make everybody's messaging better across the board, then that will help us tremendously.
Right. And I agree with you. They've got to find a message. There's got to be a strong message. You know, I'll tell you what. I would be a libertarian voter consistently if I were hearing the message, I'm going to get your Fourth Amendment back. If I'm hearing that,
most voters don't even know what
Right.
the Fourth Amendment is.
Right.
That's the problem.
So
And
there
voter
needs-
education is very, very
Yes.
difficult.
And that needs to be a tack that needs to be taken, because that's you got to educate. You can't educate people on libertarian ideals. I'm sorry, they don't
Most
want to
people only know the
TLDR.
First and Second Amendment. That's
Right.
it. Some people know Fourth or Fifth.
Right.
But that's the extent of it. If you
Right.
say 21st Amendment, they're like, I got to Google it because
Right.
they don't remember.
Right.
They don't know.
And so, you know, when you're coming at them with ideals about what that's not the education. That's a TLDR situation for them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're hitting them with wake up calls immediately, getting matrix on them and pulling the plug and saying, look, you've already lost this,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is gone.
Yeah, and there are some people we've tried to do more of that. I think in the last 10 years, since Ron Paul, really. Ron Paul was really good at that.
Yeah. Because you can't. A message of hope is not good for any party at this point.
No.
Nobody's feeling hopeful.
No.
Nobody's got that in their pocket. Sorry.
Right.
All right. So I think we're hitting close to that time, and it looks like we've lost John for good. You know,
We did lose John for good.
The ghost got
sadly.
the better of. Elfman says, even though Matt Christensen is Republican, he speaks well and concisely about liberty, which is good. I mean, you know, everybody needs to be more liberty minded, but you know, you're not going to get that in Washington because there's no power in liberty. There's just not. There's no power there. But
No, because the parties will kick you out.
oh yeah, absolutely, right. I'm just wondering how long AOC is going to last before both sides are just like, oh, she's got to shut the fuck up. She's got to go, right? She got to shut the fuck up.
I don't think she will.
She's talking green deals and shit. She gonna fuck things up. She gonna let them know about Soylent Green. Stop. All right. So before we get out of here, though, I want to give you a minute to, for anybody that doesn't know, what you're about. I know that you do some little podcast thing with your buddy Ed. I think we know Ed a little bit. We're familiar with him. But tell us a little bit about what you got going on and what's coming up for you and that kind of thing.
Well, since I wrapped the campaign, I took a little break and I've just been working on some of my own projects. I've been writing a lot more lately. I've got a link tree at the top of my Twitter page. So if you're on Twitter, my @ is libertarianred1, and you can click on that link tree that's in my bio and it will give you access to like everything that I'm doing, the newsletter that I write, the Facebook page where Ed and I stream our show, which actually got dinged on Facebook today for a 2-year-old meme that had miniature Hitlers in it. And they didn't like that very much.
Yeah, you can't show the mustachio.
Yeah. So I got dinged on Facebook, and now I'm not allowed to live stream for 30 days, which sucks. There's a link to my merch store. I sell t-shirts that have stuff to do with liberty and guns and all kinds of fun things. So yeah, check it out. That's probably the easiest place to find everything compiled in one spot.
So hearing all that, and you talking about your work with the Libertarian Party, do you have some goals in mind? Do you have any kind of political aspirations?
Oh no, definitely not.
No,
absolutely not.
Now, see, why is it God, I keep running into libertarians that are like, no, I wouldn't fuck with office. No, I have no desire.
I love helping people run for office. I love. The main reason I even started a Patreon account was so that I could get paid to create content and things that I was already doing and spending a lot of time on. because it's very time consuming, as you probably know. But also because a lot of libertarians can't afford to pay staff. And I would love to be able to just volunteer my time for candidates and just tell them, like, don't worry about it. You don't need to pay me. Like, I'll just help you. That was like my initial reason for starting, for monetizing anything that I do, was just so that I could take on unpaid work and without having to worry about myself, but I could also help candidates. So, yeah. I love doing that, but I have no interest or desire to run for office myself.
Yeah, it's like John said in the chat. Libertarians don't want power; it's their biggest flaw in gaining it, and that's and that's the thing. Is it's like, look, now I'm not, people in glass houses. I could have, I was a wayward person most of my life, but like if you've got these ideas, it's I don't know, keeping them in the background. Right. This is why I'm like, if there are people that are libertarian minded, if they have something to offer, get involved and like start making things happen. Right. Because, especially if there's a good voice, right? Like you know what you're talking about. It sounds like it's, you're selling something and you understand the problems.
I have just tried so hard to divorce myself from the intra-party squabbles that's why I don't do caucuses. That's why I don't really want to hold a position within the party. I don't want to have, a job with the national party. I've had people ask me, are you going to apply for a job with national? I'm like, no, because I don't want to answer to the LNC and all these other people and have an entire party like criticizing every move I make. Like that is not, no, I do not desire to live under a microscope.
And as John pointed out,
and that would be the case if I ran for office too. I don't want to live under a microscope.
I mean, that is it seems to be a huge impediment for the party, is that there are a lot of like-minded individuals out there that are libertarian-minded but don't want to breach that wall, all right, and get involved in it. And it's like,
we find that we're more effective when we work on our own stuff. When we do things like this, or form coalitions with other libertarians to have common, goals, and we just work on a project together. And then when it's over, and we all go our separate ways, and, we got something done. But we didn't need to form a caucus to do it. We didn't need to form this. We didn't need to do this. We didn't need to make enemies to do, we didn't need to have all that stuff.
Somebody's got to drive the train, Elaine. Somebody's got to drive the train. If it's ever gonna happen, somebody's gonna have to get up and drive the train. And so it may be somebody's got to do like yourself, has got to come in from the caboose and walk all the way up the train through the cars and get up there and then start driving the damn thing yourself.
Maybe in 20 years.
I mean, otherwise you're just going to be sitting around in 30 years going, there's another, floppy bunny-eared candidate the Libertarian Party's throwing up that I'm not, thoroughly happy with, or the party still hasn't got a message together. Maybe you're the voice. Maybe you're the message.
I did not ask for this.
You don't have to ask.
I didn't want that.
Greatness does not come by request. It just happens. Do you think Jesus didn't ask for all of that stuff that happened to him?
He did, though. He was part of the plan.
No, he was forced into it. I mean, think about it. He had to answer questions all his life growing up. What do you mean your mom was a virgin? What? What do you mean your mom was a virgin? What? I mean, just that.
That's an entirely other podcast episode.
Imagine the bullying. Come on. He didn't, right? I mean, he could probably never post anything on TikTok without just getting body shamed and the whole 9 yards.
I just saw a funny cross stitch about something like that. It said, whenever I think about what Jesus would do, I disappear for 3 days and pretend to be dead.
Right. Disappear for 3 days. That's the way to do it.
Like, yes, that is me.
But no, yeah. So, maybe you'll change your mind one day. I don't know. But that's the thing, a lot of people know that the message needs to change, but Somebody's got to be willing to get up there with a bullhorn and start telling us what that message is.
Maybe I'll just marry into it.
Well, oh, really, Jill? Really, Jill? Is that what you're going to do? Is that what we're going to do?
Sounds a lot easier. I'm just saying. I could take a shortcut.
I'm sorry. You're wanting to be Claire Underwood when you grow up? Is that it? I don't know if you get that reference.
No, I've never watched House of Cards.
See, so you did get the reference.
I got the reference, but I've never watched it, so I have no context to put with that comment.
It's some scary shit. I will say this. It's scary when you watch it and watch how parallel they made it to this last administration. Like before the administration was actually doing some of the things that they did, they had already done it in House of Cards kind of thing. I'm like,
oh, that's crazy.
I'm like, wait, which way is this going? Who's scripting who here?
Especially when you consider like how long ago those episodes would have been written and how long ago they would have been filmed. It was already done. Like post-production would have been done.
Right. There were
way in advance.
There were moments where I'm like, holy shit, Donald Trump watched House of Cards. And I just felt it. But anyway. All right, we're going to get the hell out of here. Thank you, everyone, for being in the chat. So you'll know, if you look down in the description, you'll see some places where you can find us, like our Twitter handles down there at the Gin Gap P. You can find John's usually on Twitter being all tweety or whatever they're called now. What are they called now?
Tweets.
Is it just tweets now? I thought there was something.
Fleets
now. Fleets of tweets. Yeah, they're just getting all frou-frou now. But we're also on, we've got our Discord server down there. You can find us there. Those of you who are checking us out on YouTube, we're also over on DLive and Trovo. You can find those links down there. Are we on any other platforms? Probably, but I don't. Periscope. We're on Periscope, but nobody watches us over there because they're all down in the sub. But we also have a link to not only our Discord, but to the new Gilded server, which I've been so bad and I haven't gone on there and like really
gotta do it,
done
man.
a deep dive into that and get it all set up. I've been lax. I'm just saying, I don't have somebody to do it for me, like you do,
Well, I'm the one who made the Gilded server.
Fine. Don't break your arm patting yourself on the back, though. I mean, come on.
I made that for Ed.
I know. And
I did it just for him.
He loves you for it. It's pretty cool. But that's where you can find out. You can see everybody from Freedom Scoop. Red and Ed are over there on Gilded. You can also find out about Wyatt Birkenhoff, the breakdown with Birkenhoff. We've got Stephen Ignoramus in the Freedom Scoop umbrella. We've also got RRC, and then also have the Freckles and Brit show. All of us under the Freedom Scoop umbrella. Trying to.
I thought we were on a cone.
Well,
not under an umbrella.
Right, but you don't want to be under a cone because
that'd be weird.
It's just melty and sticky. So I think of Freedom Scoop as an umbrella that we all are under, eating our ice cream so it doesn't get wet in the rain.
Okay.
Because there's nothing wrong with eating ice cream in the rain. Fight me. But I do appreciate everybody showing up tonight and all the fun chat, everybody that's out there. Sorry, John, that you couldn't hang out with us. Do make sure and watch the show back, because I still want to see if anything happened in that mirror reflection. Maybe Halfhead was in there, but I doubt it. John's not a very good ghost hunter. He hasn't had one paranormal experience the whole time he's been there.
It's because he's not in that room that he needs to be in.
Is that what it is? No,
Maybe.
Because there's been other stuff cited besides just the one room.
Well, it's also not the witching hour yet. That happens at 3 a.m.
Well, he was there last night too, I believe.
Okay.
So, John, just between you and me, John may not be very open at the moment. He's got to learn to open up and be open to these things to happen, so they feel comfortable. Otherwise he just doesn't.
I didn't think ghosts made anyone feel comfortable.
Sure they do. Come on. Don't you feel comfortable with ghosts? I know.
No, not really.
Huh?
Not
Do
really.
you believe in them?
Yeah, I think I've had some ghost experiences.
Oh.
Just one in particular.
Oh. Well, we will have to have another episode. You'll have to come on and talk to us about that. That'll be
Yeah,
cool.
I thought that's what we were gonna do tonight, so I was all like prepared.
Well, John
Full
and
knowledge
John's
stuff.
like, well, have we got anything to talk about besides just ghost stuff? And I'm like, yeah, I was going to talk. And he's like, and Elaine's going to be here, and I'm like, well, yeah, of course I'm going to talk to her and stuff like that. Like he was.
I
like,
love how you just didn't tell me that you had anything planned at all.
Oh, I didn't have anything planned at all. This was all put together in the last 3 minutes before the show. Hell, I just remembered 2 minutes before you joined in that you were coming. See, because I'm old. I have very little memory left. So it's okay. Based on the holes in my memory, Swiss cheese was going to be on the show tonight. So.
All right. I think I'm more fun than Swiss cheese, but okay.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. You probably smell better, too. I'm going on.
For sure.
That's an assumption. I don't want to, I don't want to make any, too much assumption on it, but, I would figure you did.
Ed, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable.
Right? If you want to warp cheese that way, fine. Go ahead. Warp cheese. But anyway, we're going to get the hell out of here. We'll be back again on, what's today, Friday? So we'll be back again on Monday with a little bit of fill in the gap where we try and start your week off with a little bit of humor to get rid of those Monday feelings. That's at 9:30 p.m. We'll also be back on Wednesday for another rousing episode of Shooting the Shit. And then we expect to be back next Friday, although I may not be here next Friday. May need a stand-in for John. Elaine, keep your calendar open. But that show on Friday is at 8:30 p.m. All those times are the Eastern time zone, not to be confused with all the rest of those posers out there. You know who you are. We're going to get the hell out of here. Thank you so much for coming by, Elaine. John, thanks for being here while you could. Hopefully you don't get eaten or thrown out of your hotel tonight. Outside of that, folks, have yourselves a wonderful night. Make sure and hit that like button on your way out if you haven't done it already. Other than that, going to get out of here. Peace out, everyone.